metro area. Look at that. That is 82nd Avenue. The glaze, it is a sheet of ice and it is causing an accident. We have seen multiple cars. They've been cleared away except for that minivan up on the sidewalk. And I can tell you that 82nd is closed over in Northeast between Fremont and Sandy. But again, that's just one of several things that we're tracking this morning.
It is 7:01, as you just mentioned. This is not the Today Show. This is the Snow Day Show, because we do have weather throughout the area that we want to bring you up to speed on. You just mentioned one problem spot. We have another one in Northeast Portland.
Yeah, our Christine Pitawanich is out there. This is at Northeast 148th and Gleason. And boy, that is also just a sheet of ice out there. Christine, tell us what happened, because a car slid into, was it a tanker truck?
Oh my gosh, guys, take a look. It is a mess. Look at this truck over here. I don't know if you saw that or not, but it was literally just kind of sliding to the left, and it is having some trouble coming up 148th Avenue northbound. And you can see just the line of cars. It is a mess out here. I can tell you just from crossing at the crosswalk, it is really icy. It's so slick out here. And earlier here at Northeast 148th and Gleason, there was a big crash involving a car and a tanker carrying 8,000 gallons worth of fuel. Portland police, they tweeted out about it. They were talking about how slick it is out here and how the car was trying to stop as this tanker was trying to make a wide turn. There's a car that is beeping its horn at the intersection here as this big truck is trying to get out. And you can see just people trying to warn other drivers like, hey, I'm coming, I can't stop. Because that's what happened with the crash earlier. No one was hurt in that, and everything's been towed away at this point. Roads are back open here at Gleason and 148th. But if you are heading out to this area, you can see how slow going it is and how slow you should be going, because it is so slick out here. People having a lot of trouble getting started. But we're going to continue to keep you updated rather, on the conditions out here. I just saw a guy in a truck go speeding westbound on Gleason. Not a good idea, especially right now in this area. Back to you.
All right, Christine, thanks a lot. There you see the scene again, guys. That's just a sheet of ice, and depending on where you are, wherever you're waking up this morning, you may look outside and say, oh, it wasn't too bad.
Oh,
these pictures prove a great point. It could be very bad where you're waking up this morning, or maybe just around the corner. So a lot of problem spots. We've been focusing on the ones there in Northeast Portland at 82nd and Sandy for one, and just now Christine with the report from 148th and Gleason.
That is brutal. That feeling of sliding in your car is the worst. We want to get an update on the roads right now. John Brady is joining us live with the Portland Bureau of Transportation. He's on the phone this morning. John, we talked earlier and things were calmer because not as many people are on the roads. But what are your crews watching, and what are your crews doing to try and get some kind of handle on this?
Right, yeah, so we've seen it get much slicker in the course of the morning, and so I think the main advice would be, if you can delay your travel this morning, you should. We have a full call out this morning, have 40 to 50 trucks on the street. We'll be focusing on those slick intersections, putting down anti-icer and salt, and also grit and gravel.
That is the shot right there. That's a live look right now at, I believe it's Northeast 82nd and Sandy, in that area where we saw an earlier accident. That's where Keely Chalmers and her crew is this morning. So again, can we talk about some of these problem areas, John, and what we can do at this point in the game, because it looks like it may be too late to do anything for some of these streets. Now we're just waiting for the sun.
You know, I think in particular on these streets, on the intersection, we'll put down some grit and gravel. We can put down salt when it's that hard-packed ice. That can be effective. The liquid anti-icer isn't quite as effective.
So, John,
but that's, I think, will be the push.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just curious, looking at these cars, either on the side of the road or the ones that are slipping in the street, are your crews having any trouble? Because they've got to maneuver around all that to do their job.
Right, that's a good point. So if you do get stuck, don't abandon your car in the right-of-way. Try to get over to the side of the road. But our crews, those trucks have chains and stuff like that, so we haven't had any reports of them spinning out or having problems.
You mentioned don't abandon your cars. I don't believe the person behind the wheel of that car we're looking at right now is abandoning their car, but they're not moving either. You can see a rear-wheel drive vehicle that is just spinning, going nowhere right now out there on, again, one of those areas where the ice is just taking over the roads.
It's a pretty little sports car, but it doesn't work on a morning like this.
No.
Hey, John, so we've kind of seen a couple specific areas, especially in Northeast, where we're having these problem spots. But are there any other ones you're hearing about, maybe on the west side or different parts of town that you know, or maybe your crews have told you that, hey, these are super, super icy intersections?
No, we've primarily heard about the west side, the east side as well.
John, real quick, I'm curious, what is the advice that you would give to somebody? Stay in their car and just call for help? Or what should they do? Like the guy or the woman in that car, the sports car who's stuck? What should they do?
You know, if they can get over to the side of the road, that's best. You know, you don't want to put yourself in danger. So in that particular instance, I'm looking at it as well. It's probably best to stay in the car. You don't want to get out and then slip potentially and injure yourself.
You know, this person behind the wheel, someone's watching. I know they know this driver. They're saying, hey, I saw you on the news this morning. You're like, no, you didn't. I wasn't on the news this morning. No, you were on the news this morning. And we're just unfortunately having to use this one person as an example of what could happen to any one of our viewers this morning if they try to go out there, if they try to brave the roads, because that's not even on an incline right there. I mean, that is flat road, but if you don't have the right tires,
There he goes.
You're not going anywhere. In fact, in this case, you're going backwards. Portland Bureau of Transportation, again, John Brady, we appreciate you joining us here this morning as we do extended coverage. We're eating into today's show time, obviously, but we have a lot going on weather-wise.
Hey, Christine Pitawanich, I know that you can hear me. I'm hoping you can, because I would love a play-by-play of what you've been seeing out there from this live shot. Hey, he's turning around. He was able to get out of the jam. Maybe we don't have her mic up yet. Well, he's on his way.
Thing happened over and over again. That little sports car was having a whole lot of trouble, that's for sure. But now, yeah, it's heading back southbound on 148th
Facebook viewers across Portland and the world, thank you for joining us on this extended coverage.
Yeah, so we're continuing. You know, it's coming up on the 9 o'clock hour. And one of the big stories, I guess the #1 story weather-wise right now, Chris, is that we are starting to see quite a bit of sunbreak activity coming in from the northwest, which will obviously help get the temperature up. Yeah, so, I mean,
it's like the old plan. That's how we...
Right.
Dealt with snow in Portland in the old days. We just let the sun come out and melt everything, and that usually works, but not until 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, I mean, the problem now is mostly black ice, right? It's not like we have enough snow where the snow really needs to be plowed away. We just need what has become black ice to melt. So I think over the next 60 minutes, you can see the sun over downtown Portland. You would assume our temperature is going to become 33, 34 degrees in the next 6 minutes, or 60 minutes or so, I should say. And that should start to show
to melt that snow, Rod, or you're going to be in big trouble.
Rapid improvement, yes. So, I mean, yeah, let's see Timberline Lodge, our director Brian saying, you know, the resorts. So last time I looked, Chris, Ski Bowl actually had 5 inches over the past 24 hours. Meadows had 3 and Timberline had 4.
But Seaside had 4.
And yeah, right. How crazy is that?
So Seaside out the best in Timberline in the last 24 hours. How'd that happen?
It's only in the teens up there, and it's not going to get much above 20 at Timberline today. And that's a temperature where ODOT can't chisel away, or chemicals won't get any ice off of the road when the temperature is that cold. So I know
up in the mountain.
Yeah, up in the mountain. So I know when I looked at Government Camp's ODOT camera, everything had been well plowed. It was completely snow covered, and it's likely going to stay that way for the next couple of days because we're not going to get, even with sun, significant warming up there. But clearly, that's been nothing ordinarily bad. In fact, really, the roads I don't think have been that bad up there. It's been well plowed.
And you know what that also means? For the Portland and many school kids and adults that have the snow day today, if you can get up to the mountain, there's some good powder to be had up there.
And there's no wind up there either. Yes. So even though it's going to be chilly, 20 degrees, 25, depending on the elevation of the ski slope you're on, it should be fairly comfortable. Here's the Wells Fargo camera. So getting back to the traffic, you know, right now I think we're entering a 9 to 10 o'clock hour where we will, at least in spots, start to see improvements. And Chris, we showed a lot of neighborhood streets. Talk to me.
That looks like that's out near 82nd Avenue, right?
So that was one of the big travel spots.
Live shot from earlier this morning where we were having all those problems heading up towards the airport. I mean, literally, remember when she counted literally dozens, like 2 dozen or more cars spun out on the side of the road on 82nd Avenue. Boy, that still looks a little slick there. And yeah, the sun's definitely going to help things, but we do have some trouble spots still at this hour, even though some schools are just running late. Parents getting out there on the roads, getting to work, maybe getting a late start. The roads are not great, right? So let's, maybe do we want to take the traffic maps now? I want
to ask you one question, and then I'm going to let you go reset, and I'll talk while I do that. But my one question, sir, is, in terms of interstate highways, I-5, or the main roadways, US 26, any problem spots on those major highways / interstates coming into Portland?
205 has actually been a trouble spot this morning in a couple places. First off, where we don't typically expect it, east side of Vancouver, which, you know, they've had a good track record of late, but we had a viewer actually email us several photos of, I think it was 7 or 8 different spinouts near Patton Parkway. And so I can tell you this, if you're on the east side of Vancouver and you're trying to get into Portland right now, use I-5. I don't typically say that this hour of the morning, but I-205 is not in very good shape. It's still pretty well bunched up back towards Salmon Creek. I-5 looking good over the interstate bridge. Interestingly, some of the notorious trouble spots like Highway 26 near Sylvan or near the Vista Ridge Tunnel, we had ODOT on earlier this morning. Don Hamilton mentioned that was one location where they actually did use salt. So guess what,
And
Rod?
it worked.
It worked. The salt worked.
Golly gee, mother.
The sunset down to bare pavement near the Vista Ridge Tunnel. So maybe that's one of the reasons why some of the West Side schools are doing a little bit better in the delay and closure department. Hillsborough, Beaverton, obviously the 2 big districts on the West Side. 217 down to bare pavement in a lot of locations as well.
Robert, was that from Ridgefield, Washington to the airport that you asked me about? Okay. Viewer Barbie saying apparently they need to get to she needs to get to the airport from Ridgefield. So you're telling me there could still be issues on 205 and that Patton Parkway area.
Yeah, I would skip 205 south right now. When you get to the I-5-205 split in Salmon Creek, I-5's in better shape. You can cross the interstate bridge and then you can take
SR-14, or where would you take?
No, you probably, because you'd still got to get over the Glen Jackson. You probably want to go all the way down to oh gosh. Well, you don't have many options because you can't exit the freeway southbound at Columbia, so you'd have to get off at Interstate Avenue
And then
Marine
work
Drive,
that way.
maybe
Okay.
you want to take Marine Drive
Okay.
over to the airport and work that way. But that is going to be in better shape than I-205 right now. And Tamara Hellman from WashDOT mentioned that the WashDOT crews were having a tough time getting to the roads and the trouble spots on I-205 South because of A, the traffic volume, and B, all the number of cars and spinouts that they have there.
Go reset your traffic maps.
Yes.
And then I'm going to gab, and then when you get back, I'm going to go reset my weather maps. Further information from viewer Barbie's that apparently that flight she needs to catch is at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Let me be very clear. Confidence is 99, 100% that there will be no this afternoon. By noon, every single reporting temperature in our valley area will be no colder than 35, 36 degrees and maybe warmer. That will quickly clear the black ice, and we will have clear driving conditions this afternoon. We will have clear driving conditions for the PM commute back home. In fact, by 5 o'clock this afternoon, I anticipate the majority, if not all of the snow on the ground to even be gone. So, you know, the story yesterday was we had the snow at the coast. Portland didn't get anything out of the gate, but remember we said, well, this is just the beginning of snow possibilities that would in fact go into this morning. Well, we know we got that snow mass last evening, but now we're done. And once we warm up, which we're going to be doing in the next hour to two, the threat of icy weather will disappear really quickly. And this afternoon, there will be no weather concerns from any of this. This is Sky 8 still flying live, these pictures. Is that right, Brian? Yeah, still pictures over the area. You know, the snow amounts were incredibly uniform from the west side to the east side. The only difference was the snow ended faster west of the West Hills and lingered a little bit longer along 205 and in Clackamas before that finally pulled out. The number one takeaway from the mess we had this morning was that overwhelmingly we had more crashes and more black ice reports, especially on neighborhood roadways, but some of our major roads on the east side. And the question is why? And we don't really have a great answer for that. The only spot of road that I know Chris McGinnis talked about was they used salt on Highway 26 over Sylvan, and we didn't have any issues there. I think Chris mentioned that they used salt over parts of West Burnside as well. And as far as we know, all those spots, as you know, as anybody would tell you, were fine. They had no issues. And I wasn't asked to do this, but I would like to do it. So my KGW Rod Hill Facebook page is that, KGW Rod Hill. And okay, I'm getting a question. Chris, I'm going to go reset my weather, but Chris, the question from viewer Veronica is, how are the roads in inner southeast and the bridges? I hand it off to you, sir.
You know what? I can actually give you a look at the bridges in a second. Would we be able to get to the map wall, guys? Hopefully we can do that because I do want to get, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to answer that question in about 2 minutes. I can show you that we do have some trouble on the Selwood Bridge. I can actually show that to you, but let's get to a couple of other trouble spots that we still have. I want to tell you about this. Out on the Columbia River Gorge, Interstate 84, ODOT telling us that I-84 westbound is shut down because of, and I do mean completely shut down because of this crash near Multnomah Falls. So westbound 84 is a no-go right now past Multnomah Falls. Let's pick it up south of town, I-5 through the Corvallis and Albany area. You can still see some snow coverage on the side of the road, but I-5 actually looks like it's in pretty good shape. Let's get back to the live streaming cameras here, and this is Sky 8. Looks like, can you remind me, Director Brian, where we are with this shot here? Looks like we're somewhere in southeast Portland here. Southeast 47th maybe? 42nd, 43rd, something like that. So there you go. I mean, to answer the question about how are the side streets in southeast Portland right now, well, you can imagine they're going to look a lot like this, right? Not a major thoroughfare right now, so we've got lots of slick stuff out there. I can switch gears real quick. I had a shot of the Selwood Bridge up just a second ago. Looks like we lost that, but I want to take you back over to the freeways. We still have this exit ramp closure. If you were watching us on Sunrise maybe 15, 20 minutes ago, we showed you, unfortunately, a car that lost control going down the exit ramp from I-205 south onto Foster, and that car overturned. And so emergency crews are still working that. The southbound 205 Foster exit ramp is still closed at this point. I'll switch gears one more time and take you back up to Patton Parkway. Rod and I were just kind of yammering about this out of Clark County. The I-205 drive out of Clark County is not in real good shape right now. This is from the Patton Parkway on-ramp. A lot of snow and ice on the side of the road, and as I mentioned before, we had a couple of or at least one viewer actually let us know that there were 8 separate crashes or spinouts on his drive around Patton Parkway on southbound 205. So still really, really slow on that side of town. It appears that that might be the worst of the Portland freeways right now heading into downtown. And there is a very, very nice site. That's a live picture of 82nd near Gleason. Actually, that appears to be a little closer to Killingsworth, guys. Highway 30 bypass sign off in the distance. I'm going to guess that's a little closer to Killingsworth. And that de-icer truck, definitely a welcome sight, I think, for a lot of folks out there. De-icer and salt will be helpful. But you know what else, Rod? Looks like you are coming back here. What else is going to be really, really helpful is to get that sun out. Because as soon as we can get the sun acting out there on that blacktop, get the blacktop to absorb some of that sunshine, we're going to melt the snow and ice hopefully very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think we're in that spot where we're watching temperatures. We have a Davis weather station. I guess I just gave a commercial for Davis weather stations.
Sure.
Up on the
Quality
top
equipment.
But it is good equipment. On the rooftop here at KGW, we're up to 31 degrees. So we're now in that first hour where we expect to start see warming, and that will clear the black ice, and by noon, I really don't think we're going to have any issues, just some melting snow. Viewer, is it Mara, is that right? Asked the question, is snow unusual in Portland? I don't know, she must have just moved here recently. So, you know, we're one of those climates where, can we go several years without getting anything? Yeah. How often do we get like a 8, 9, 12-inch snowstorm? Well, the last time we had that was January of 2017, when we had anywhere from generally about 8 to, I remember Pittock Mansion up in the West Hills had 14 inches on the ground from that. But we generally go several years in between
5,
getting
6,
a big
7 years
storm.
like that, yeah.
I would say the average year, you kind of expect
One of
maybe
these.
2 or 3 episodes of what we've had. A little inch here, maybe we got 3. Most of the reports today have been anywhere from a half of an inch to at most 2 inches on the ground.
Which has got a question from a viewer about Vancouver. Was it Louis was asking about Lucas? Excuse me. Thank you for checking in with us, Lucas. I-205 out of Vancouver right now. If you hadn't had a chance to watch earlier, I-205 right now is really stacked up in Clark County. I don't know if maybe. Do we have the ability to take the ODOT camera live again? The ODOT WashDOT feed live? Because I just dialed up I-205 up near Patton Parkway, and if not, that's okay. But I can tell you that we're still pretty much lined up from Mill Plain back towards Salmon Creek, and one of our KGW News viewers sent us some photos showing us 8. There you go. There's the live shot. You know, and that actually
That's
looks
205?
better. Yeah, and that looks better now than it did half an hour or 45 minutes ago. But yeah, that's I-205 on the east side of Vancouver. So Lucas, hopefully that answered your question. Several spinouts reported there. We had Tamara Hellman from WashDOT on the phone here not too long ago, saying that they were having a tough time getting to the road, getting to those accidents because of all the traffic on those icy roads.
And by the way, my wife, a KGW viewer, we live up in Vancouver. She had to go from.
Thank you, Grayson.
So we live over by Columbia River High School, which is off of 99th Street on the I-5 side, if you know exactly where that is.
Hazeldale.
And, yeah, Hazeldale area. And she's trying to get over to the ice rink off of Mill Plain. So my wife went down I-5, cut across SR-14, and then back up to Mill Plain. She said, piece of cake. Roads were in good shape. Traffic not bad at all. So that's good news.
Variable road conditions,
yeah,
but generally a little bit better in Clark County than Portland, and especially on the east side of Portland, where we've had crashes and spinouts, and I think the video from Keeley earlier this morning really took the cake here with 24 spinouts on 82nd Avenue in Killingsworth.
Yeah. And Joan, good morning, Joan. Joan says, hey, Rod, hey, Chris, what's the commute situation going to be tomorrow morning? So we know this. Tomorrow morning will be DRY dry. We know temperatures will be in the 20s. You know, if we clear out tonight and the winds go flat, we could have temperatures near 20 in some of the classic really cold spots out in Yamhill County and up in northern Clark County. So it's going to be cold. It's going to be calm. It could be either partly cloudy or fairly clear unless we get some fog. That'd be a mess. You think it's going to be calm? I guess, you know, you think, I'm looking at Chris, who's Chris is like one of those guys that's the smartest guy in the room, if you don't know. But I hadn't really thought about fog, but the dew points are going to be low enough. We're probably not going to see fog tomorrow morning. Would you agree with that?
I would, you know, I think our biggest issue is whether or not we get a refreeze, right? And so we get.
Well, we know it's going to freeze temperature-wise.
Right. Yeah. And by that I mean, what's out there right now? Does that have time with a little bit of daylight thawing out to melt and evaporate and dry.
Which is why I've said earlier this morning, Joan, do a blacktop / asphalt check in your neighborhood before the sun goes down tonight. You know, we're hoping for enough sun this afternoon, a warm enough temperature that will not only melt but will dry. So if everything is dry tonight, then we'll be fine. But if it's wet still on the surfaces, then that'll be black ice.
But to add to that, if you're in like a location maybe that doesn't get sunlight, I mean, there's a lot of tree-lined streets, and if you're not getting direct sun on the roads, chances are that that's going to be there again tomorrow morning. So that maybe that kind of adding a little bit. The main roads will be in much better shape tomorrow morning, but there's still going to be some icy patches out there for sure.
It'd be more patchy, not the mess that we had.
Can we go back to that live shot that we had from Sky 8 that was up and over southeast? I guess this was what, 23rd and Holgate. Do we have that shot again that we can take? This is the ground shot. I'm not sure what. There's the. We had a couple of cars kind of struggling to get through that intersection at 23rd and Holgate. There's one at the bottom of your screen. So the pickup truck that was there that was kind of spinning its wheels just was able to get on its way. But now we've got 2 other cars there that are. You know, I almost feel a little guilty. Like this is a little like voyeur television here. We're watching everybody else have a hard time on the roads, but it is.
I'm okay with my position in the studio.
It's demonstrating to the rest of you that are safe and warm and hopefully in a much more comfortable spot than those drivers are of what it looks like out there on the roads.
I'm chuckling with people because I've been in that situation.
I have.
I grew up in a winter climate, as did you, and I've been out there.
No tires.
In that mess.
And sometimes those don't even cut it.
It is worth mentioning that every single picture we're showing you is absolutely live. Is that right, Director Brian? Nothing is. Every picture image we're showing you is live. So. You know, we're starting to see more brightness in the sky. There's a sunbreak over. Where's this at, Brian? Do we know where this is? Northeast 150th, and you can see some sunshine breaking out there. So that sun is going to start to warm us up, and that is terrific, terrific news. The forecast, boy, look at that brightness. Brian, tell me where we're at here.
That's got to be over northeast, yeah?
That's the northeast? No. Oh, Mill Plain and I-5
So
up
it's
in
northeast
Vancouver.
of our studio, right?
Yeah,
That's close enough.
I should recognize any spot in Clark County. I call myself Mr. Clark County. All right, that's Mill Plain and 205. So my wife was just in this area, and remember, she gave the report that the road was in pretty good shape and the traffic wasn't bad, and visually it looks like my wife is right on the money. That looks to be not bad at all right there.
How does that work out when she's...
I don't know. I hate to think about how often my wife is right, to be honest. All right, any more questions?
Let's get back to the ODOT camera. I know we had another question about Portland bridges and what it looks like. Can we take the macadam camera? Yeah, so right now we're looking at the Selwood Bridge. This is from Highway 43. And we clearly have at least one spin out there that's kind of right behind that right turn signal there. It's westbound traffic coming out of the Selwood area trying to get across the Selwood Bridge, and that looks to be a little icy to me.
Yeah, so
obviously one car there. So
what we're doing, you know, we wrapped up our live coverage on KGW television at 9 o'clock this morning. Of course, we'll be back at noon with the latest full information that you need, and we hope you can join us. For right now, we're streaming this live on Facebook. So if you're watching us, that means you're on Facebook, and just we have a person monitoring all of your questions. So feel free to ask us any weather questions or travel questions. Everything we're showing you on television is live. Sky 8 is still up flying for us in the sky, and I will tell you that the forecast is now dry. We are starting to see temperatures creep up near the freezing mark, which means we're soon going to be seeing some thawing. And then the forecast is basically, outside of a spotty shower, bone dry right now into Thursday. And maybe Thursday we could even stay dry. It's Friday overnight and Saturday. That's what our weather team is now focused on for the potential of more snow. Again, that's Friday overnight, Saturdays. We look at a mix of low clouds and sun breaks live from Sky 8.
Rob, can you remind me what our viewer's name was? Stanford, thank you for asking, and I think Rod will also want to chime in on this question in a minute, but to answer your question, Stanford, about where salt was applied, this is what I can confirm from after hearing from Portland Bureau of Transportation and from ODOT. At least we've had a lot of coverage this morning, so a lot of interviews going back and forth, but this is what I am absolutely dead certain about, is that there was salt put down, at least this from Don Hamilton of ODOT. There was salt put down near the Vista Ridge Tunnel on Highway 26, and I'm also pretty confident we heard John Brady say that part of Burnside, West Burnside, was salted. Now I know that he also, John Brady,
that's going up into the West Hills.
Yes, of course. Now I know that Mr. Brady also said that there are salt routes scattered across the West Hills and at some of the higher elevations of the east side of Portland. But I didn't actually hear him say, yes, there was salt put down on the east side of Portland. And I think if you look at some of the video that we had, obviously those streets that weren't salted at all. So
yeah, and we did have again, that was a story, the east side, and to be clear, the weather was really pretty similar across the area. There wasn't any east wind. In fact, when I checked the Troutdale at 9 o'clock this morning, their wind out on the east side, southwest at 3. So the gorge wasn't really a player at all. Now, with that said, I do want to go to weather maps. Brian, go ahead and flip me to the weather graphics. And Chris, do we have any updates at all on the I-84 closure out
Last I heard was about 25 minutes ago, ODOT saying that I-84 westbound is still closed near Multnomah Falls because of a crash. And there are, and in fact, as I check this now, just now getting an update, let's confirm this here. Westbound right lane is closed. The left lane now open. So that is the update. Westbound I-84 now one lane has reopened.
Okay.
Near Multnomah Falls. Earlier crash, several cars, 3 vehicles involved with that. So
that's a huge headline. This is obviously Cascade Locks, which would be a bit east of the falls, but you can see it's certainly kind of a slushy I-84. Now these pictures, these are all pretty much live ODOT pictures that we're showing you. And this, Chris, these are much improved images.
Big time
I mean, before I-84 was more white than not. So it looks like they've been out treating the roadway where now it's more of a slushy mess. This one's Parkdale. That's up in the Upper Hood River Valley. You would expect that to be a mess. It absolutely is. And here is that live camera we have out in the Dalles from the Oregon Veterans Home out there, where it looks like they easily have 2, maybe 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground. It's tough to tell when you're eyeballing. I just know you once could see grass in that image, and you can't see it anymore. So they've got some decent snow on the ground.
Director Brian, do we have the live video, the live camera up at 82nd Avenue? Do we still have that shot? Sorry to interrupt. I know
that's Uquinna Bay, by the way, where it's 36 degrees and you're getting
let's take the one at Killingsworth if we can have that, because that was the big trouble spot. Okay, yeah. So we had somebody just. That's helpful for sure. So this is 82nd near Killingsworth, and it looks like that's going to be just prior to kind of where you would turn to go underneath Killingsworth and head up towards PDX, towards the airport. Boy, that sure still looks a little icy to me. At least that right lane. Can we get that pan over? There we go. There's kind of like where you would take that little jug handle to get down to 82nd heading northbound towards the airport. And that's where Keeley was not too long ago. That was just a big, big mess. So, and of course, earlier we had the closure of 82nd between Sandy and Fremont as well.
Let me ask you, sir, let's say it stays sunny like that over that 82nd area. Let's say it stays sunny. Any reason at all with no wind that the temperature would not warm 3, 4, or 5 degrees over the next, certainly between now and noon?
We get above freezing.
Right, we should pop that pretty quickly, wouldn't you think?
That's a slam dunk.
Yeah, okay. So that's going to bring rapid improvement. Boy, there's Sky 8 flying over St. John's, so that's what part of Forest Park you're looking at on the left side of the West Hills there in Sunshine developing. Do we have any issues out there that we know about? Anything over the St. John's Bridge this morning? There were issues?
So we've got 2 questions. Rod, because we had 2 things going on. Ask me that question again.
Were there any problems in the St. John's Bridge area or this area coming in from US 30?
Okay, so we had some major slowing across the St. John's Bridge, but I didn't have any reports of any crashes on the bridge this morning. That's not to say that we didn't have a quick clearing fender bender or something like that, but I didn't see any emails come down about any blockages or anything like that. A question that Rob just posed to me, a lot of folks. Rod loves to hop on the salt debate here.
I do.
So I'm going to let you chime in on this in a second. We had some viewers asking, well, doesn't salt do damage to your vehicle?
Well,
yes.
Yes.
Very, very, yes, it does. Salt does. I grew up in a place that uses salt. Grew up and spent plenty of time in the Midwest. Salt will corrode metal. That is a fact. That does happen. Now, the question is, how much salt are we talking about? And what is, do you go get your car washed right afterwards, rinse it off, and are you good to go? That's another debate. But the simple answer to the question, does salt possibly damage metal parts on your car? Yes.
Yes, it does. Real quick, I'm going to comment on that. Cody, thanks for watching us here live on Facebook. Asked when is the next time it's going to snow. Cody, thanks for just joining us. The forecast is now basically bone dry outside of a spotty shower today. Until a rain chance on Thursday afternoon, which may or may not happen. But the next time it could snow is Friday overnight into Saturday. So again, keep yourself updated Friday overnight into Saturday. Now back to our our salt debate, because this was a big issue back in January of 2017.
And even going back to December of 2016 is when we had multiple incidences where the sunset was just a disaster. We had those afternoon snow events and cars that just couldn't get up the hill from the Vista Ridge Tunnel, and you saw literally dozens of spinouts. And I think that's when the salt debate really, gathered traction, so to speak.
And maybe we're not making the correct assumption, but I think I'm not alone when I make the assumption that, well, if you live in Michigan, it's known that your car is going to rust out because you have salt on the roads all the time. But if you live here, some winters we don't have any event. Other winters we have one or two. So let's say at most, on the typical winter, we're going to have maybe 5 days, let's say, where you would have some salt put down in a mixture and you would want to get your car washed, including your undercarriage, as soon as quickly after. And most people, let me don't speak for other people, but I assume that that's not going to overly damage my vehicle. And in fact, we learned the last time we made this into a news story that WashDOT for years has included some salt in the mixture they're put on their roads, because we noticed as a news crew that Clark County roads were often better, including I-5, than the Oregon side. And then Oregon jumped on and said, well, now we're going to start using a little bit of salt. And what about the environment? According to the state of Washington, I don't know if they're telling us the truth or not, but they reported to our news organization that they've done studies on this and that they do not use a level of salt that they have found to have any negative impact on the environment whatsoever. That's what they reported to our newsroom. And obviously,
this was WashDOT.
It was WashDOT, the state of Washington. So it seems like, to some degree, and maybe it's what we are reporting, but there seems to be a growing unhappiness with people in this area that we allow our city to come to a standstill when we get the decision not to treat our roads. And let me be clear, if the road is icing over from an inch of snow at the turn to black ice, I don't care what you said you put on the road. You didn't treat it. It's a mess. And we're making the decision to allow that to happen. I think a lot of people are getting tired of it. I know I am. I'm getting tired of it.
Right? Cost folks downtime, cost folks trying to find daycare. It's expensive, and it's productivity, right? It's time that, we as a news organization, we had lots of stuff that we had to get done today. Of course, there's nothing more important than delivering, traffic news and weather coverage, but a lot of things that, everybody wants to get out and do, and we're kind of brought to a screeching halt on a morning like this.
Should mention, I grew up, where'd you grow up, Chris? I grew up in Missouri and Iowa. You did grow up in Pennsylvania.
Spent 10 years in the Midwest, so, Wisconsin and Iowa and Illinois. So.
People know that grew up in winter climate zones where you get snow, and typically, they salt the roads and they do whatever it takes to make the pavement clean. Those cities often attack the interstate highways, and the main roads like US 26 will be attacked first. And maybe it is days before they get into the neighborhood streets. I think most people accept that.
And ODOT's credit this morning, as Don mentioned, Don Hamilton from ODOT, Highway 26 near the Vista Ridge Tunnel. Salted, no problems. Looked great. Yeah. It looked great. It was down to bare pavement, and this was, the salt just sits there and laughs at the snowflakes falling on it because it's just going to be fine.
So do we know if a salt truck, in this instance, ever arrived at 82nd, that area around the airport, where we covered it for well over an hour, that it was unpassable?
82nd Avenue is kind of one of those, is that an ODOT road or a PBOT area of responsibility? I'm not sure, because of course 82nd Avenue doubles as Highway 213.
Right.
So that would be a state responsibility. I don't know. That's something we're going to have to check in with both Don Hamilton and probably John Brady of PBOT. But
that was one of the bullseye areas where people just couldn't move.
You probably could have gotten your ice skates on and gone for a little stroll out there.
Rob, do we have any other questions? Are we starting to slow down in the question department, sir? People on Facebook, as we continue to look at live streaming video now from Sky 8 with more, I would say almost half the area now starting to report some sunshine breaking through. So, of course, that's very, very good news.
Maybe we can get back out to, Brian, give me just a quick second here to reload some of these washout cameras, because I-205 has kind of been the late morning trouble spot, so I'm trying to bring those up. Let's see if we can go to those. Can we? Can we take that first washout camera, get a look at I-205 up near SR 500? Boy, that looks a lot better now than it did half an hour ago.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
much
it sure
improved.
does. I mean, the sun is out,
and
very effective. Let me see. I'm going to try to punch this one more time, and hopefully...
About a minute left in our coverage, Chris, if you didn't get that.
You keep going. I want to get up to Patton Parkway.
Okay, Brian, can you hit a button and take me to the weather graphics, and then we'll hit another button and take you back to Chris's cameras here in a second. So again, this was I can't believe it was 28 degrees out at the airport at 9 o'clock, but I guess it was. We're up to 32 now here in downtown Portland, and we're still projecting a temperature of 36 at noon. Highs that could reach 40. We're getting some sun. Winds will be light. That'll take care of the black ice certainly before noon. Right now it's 9:30, so that would be 2.5 hours left to do that, but I think we'll do that. And we'll start to melt a lot of the snow this afternoon as well. You ready to roll?
Yeah, I am. So real quick, let's get back to that washed out camera. This is I-205 up near Patton Parkway. Still running a little slow there southbound, but boy, that looks better now. I mean, you can see blacktop, so that's some good news. Also, Lane asking us about the drive-in from Tannisbourne. The westbound commute out near Cornelius Pass Road still looks like we got a little fender bender there, so that's slowing the westbound commute. The inbound drive, as we've been mentioning, past Sylvan Hill and into the Vista Ridge Tunnel looks good. That's an area where ODOT used salt on the road, and coming down the hill, it's just a little bit of brake tapping. That looks like a normal Tuesday morning drive. James asked, what about the airport? And, you know, generally speaking, if you're watching the news and we're not covering something, that's good news. That means we're not hearing of any issues. I think we did have a report from PDX early this morning. I'm talking early this morning on Sunrise, but we have not heard of this being a local impact on the airport really whatsoever. The local impact was it was tough to get to the airport. Yeah, the airport was fine. No problem, no major issues at the airport, but getting there, specifically 82nd Avenue, was actually closed for quite a while this morning. And in fact, it looks like it may still be closed between at least Fremont and Sandy Boulevard. And then farther downstream, of course, we had the trouble just north of Killingsworth with all those cars. I mean, just dozens, literally dozens of spinouts that Keely Chalmers reported from her live shot earlier this morning. Yeah. I got is a viewer James, is that right? Or what was the name, Rob? Mike, I'm sorry, I apologize. Mike in Salem asking about what's going on down in our beautiful capital city. I'm not showing you this, but I'm looking at, do you have an ODOT camera in Salem you can pull up? I'm looking at the I-5 shot, and it looks like it's moving pretty good. We got bare pavement and smooth commuting on I-5 and Highway 22. I can tell you that. 22 going through Salem anyway. No promises on the traffic, right? And Salem's been just a tad bit warmer. They're 31, 32 in the city right now, and like Portland, light winds. But I guess we would have, believe me, we would have reported Salem if we were flooded with a lot of issues. We didn't really hear that many bad reports coming out of Salem. Salem is city as of a year and a half ago, not on the salt bandwagon, by the way. Not on the salt bandwagon. Not on the salt bandwagon. As I recall talking to one of the city staff there, I may have to double check my facts as that was about an 18-month ago discussion, but I don't know that that's changed. Does the governor use salt on her baked potato? Just a question. I like a little pepper and butter on mine, on salt, you know, salted butter maybe. All right. Oh, so you were asking about the governor, not me. Never mind. Governor Brown. Yes. Good morning, Governor, if you're with us this morning. All right, we're wrapping up our Facebook streaming coverage here. Use the hashtag IamUpPDX. Continue to send us your photos, videos, just some weather reports, and we will get as many of those on our noon news as possible. Again.